Okay. Okay, Հակոբ, կարող ենք սկսել։
All right, good evening, everybody. Good morning or good afternoon, depending on where you are. This is the ARPA Institute events, monthly events. And before we start, I would like to say a few words about ARPA and its activities. ARPA Institute has been established since 1992 and works in Armenia mainly. And these public events are the only events that we organize outside of Armenia. We work with the universities, with the institutes of the Academy of Sciences, as well as with the government, various ministries. And we try to help in science, education, technology, health, economy, various areas, wherever we can, by providing technical assistance as well as financial assistance, depending on the kind of activities that we organize. We have a few activities that are ongoing now. One of the important one is an annual invention competition for young scientists, where we receive inventions on various subjects, and we send it to experts to evaluate, and we award the winners with monetary awards, and also we encourage them to continue and make it into a product if possible. We also have programs with various institutes of the Academy. For example, the National Armenian National Lab, where we are now building a clean room, which is going to be the first clean room of its kind, class 1000 clean room, where scientists can perform very sensitive experiments. We also provide various instrumentation and also technical advice to a couple of teams in the Armenian National Lab, especially with one of the teams which works on what they call a radio frequency photomultiplier tube, which essentially is a device that measures laser pulses to within a femtosecond, which is a very, very short time. So it's a very precise instrument, and it has many applications, such as it can increase the power of the most powerful microscope, they say 10 times or more. It can make the fastest camera even 10 times faster. It can also be applied in other areas. We also work with the Physical Research Institute in Artsakh, where we have provided several instrumentation, and also our experts work with their scientists in various fields like production of graphene and also using nanoparticles for medical applications. We also work with the Molecular Biology Institute, where we have provided the first modern sequencer several years ago, and they're using that sequencer to carry out very high-level research. And we continue to help the Molecular Biology Institute in various areas, especially now that one of their students has established a new bioinformatics institute, and we're trying to help her expand on that project and make it into a really practical way of doing business in Armenia. We also work with the universities, the Polytechnic, and also the Yerevan State University, providing instrumentation, guidance, and so on. And we also work with the government, especially now we are working on a very important project, which is called Science Fairs. Some of you may know what a science fair is. This is a project for students, high school students right now we're concentrating on, where they select a project and try to do it in an innovative way by doing experimentation, collecting data, analyzing the data, and then making a conclusion and presenting the conclusion to judges. So they learn essentially how to investigate, how to do experimentation, how to organize the experimental results, present it, and be able to convince the judges. So these are the kinds of things we do in Armenia. There are many other things that we also do. We have, for example, a distance learning program where we find experts from all over the world and they present online lectures with the objective of technology transfer, essentially, providing the latest news or the latest technology in the area presented. So today, we are happy to have with us Razmig Arzoumanian and Sona Baghdasaryan. We're going to speak about a very important topic. And the moderator today is going to be Dr. Hasmik Baran, who is a board member of ARPA, and she's a professor at CSUN, California State University, Northridge, and also an educator in the California school system. Hasmik, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Hago, for that introduction. I thank ARPA for the opportunity given to me to moderate today's panel discussion. Good morning and good evening to you all, wherever you are, and thank you for your participation. As Hago said, we have an important topic today that is directly related to post-war problems in Armenia and organizations that do support in resolving those problems. We all know that long after the fighting stops, war continues to impact the health of soldiers, civilians, and the environment. During the 44-day war, few thousand brave soldiers made the ultimate sacrifice in the battlefield. Many others got injured and are suffering from wounds that will last a lifetime and require long-term care. Government authorities have the primary responsibility of addressing post-war issues and implementing strategies for the wounded warriors to adjust and recover from their physical injuries and or the psychological trauma to return to work and civilian life. Even though the government of Armenia includes in its defense budget appropriated funds to resolve post-war problems, its human and financial resources remain limited and therefore require additional support from non-governmental organizations. Our panel session focuses on two such organizations, namely Insurance Foundation for Servicemen, the 1,000 plus, and the Armenian Wounded Heroes Fund. These two organizations have come to existence and have offered their direct support to meet the needs of the wounded heroes and their families. We will be hearing shortly from the representatives of these two organizations about the remarkable work that they have done thus far and plan on continuing it. I'm sure we will leave this session with uplifted spirits, knowing that such organizations exist. The format of the panel discussion will be that first we will hear from our panelists with a short presentation. After that short presentation, I will pose a few questions for each of the presenters, and they in turn will respond to those questions. And then if there are questions from the participants, you can add those questions into the chat room, and then we will, if time allows, we will address those questions. So let me introduce to you our first panelist, Sona Baghdasaryan. In fact, our two panelists, Sona Baghdasaryan and Razmig Arzoumanian. Our first presenter will be Sona. We'll start with Sona. Sona Baghdasaryan is the fundraising and donor relations manager at IFS, Insurance Foundation for Servicemen, since February 2021. and member of the Armenian Institute of Directors since 2020. Prior to IFS, Sona was at the legal department of the Central Bank of America for 14 years, working in different positions. Since 2018, Sona is an adjunct professor at the French University in Armenia, where she teaches contract law and risk management. In 2007, Sona received her MA in International Business Law firm from the French University in Armenia and the University of Jean Moulin in Lyon, France. In 2012, she received her LLM in Banking and Financial Law from Boston University School of Law. Our next presenter is Razmig Arzoumanian, who is a managing director and head of Aerospace and Defense of Lincoln International, a global investment banking firm. He started his 20-plus year investment banking career at Citigroup and previously led the global AD group at Merrill Lynch, Bank of America. Razmig has also implemented various humanitarian and other investments in Armenia and Artsakh since the early 1990s. He's an active member of the Armenian community in the Diaspora and a co-founder of the Armenian Wounded Heroes Fund. It's my pleasure to invite our first speaker, Sona Baghdasaryan.
Hello, thank you for the wonderful introduction, Razmig. I hope everyone can hear me well. If no, I can raise my voice. Thank you for your time, Saturday morning, devoted to soldiers and their families. I would like to share a very small presentation with you. You can see my screen now?
Yes.
Okay, great. Okay, as Razmig presented, I work for the Insurance Foundation for Servicemen, 1,000 plus, as it is nicknamed, because when the project started, every employee in Armenia would pay 1,000 drams, which is $2 from their monthly salary, to benefit the foundation. During the presentation, I will give you numbers, but the important thing is that we have raised this 1,000 drams. It's no longer $2, but $3 to $30, as situation has changed drastically. But the name stuck, so we're popularly known as 1,000 plus. What we do, the Insurance Foundation for Servicemen was founded in 2017. It's basically a social impact life insurance model with a sole mission to provide monetary compensation to two types of beneficiaries. First, heroes who acquired a disability, first or second degree, while protecting the borders of our homeland, and the second to families of those who lost loved ones in combat, a parent, a spouse, a son, or a daughter. The compensations are calculated taking into account that these people need to have a dignified and sustainable future in Armenia. For fallen heroes and first-degree disability cases, the amount of compensation is $20,000 lump sum, and then every month for 20 years, between $400 and $600 paid to the family or to the injured soldier. Second-degree disability, the one-time lump sum payment is $10,000 with $200 to $400 paid to the families for 20 years. These amounts were calculated taking into account that the model was designed not to compensate the loss of a loved one, which is not possible, but to compensate the loss of a breadwinner for the family. The monthly insurance payouts, the range depends on the rank of the serviceman. The higher the rank, naturally, the higher the compensation, considering that higher ranked servicemen will earn more during their lifetime. Sorry. Who we are. It's very important to understand who we are. Before the war, the Insurance Foundation for Servicemen was a group of volunteers who contributed their time and resources, expertise to advancing the mission. Unfortunately, now we're a large team of around 15 professionals with a highly independent and professional board because I will give you certain numbers. Before the war, we compensated cases from 2008 to 2020, September 27. We had 416 cases only. As a result of this war, we have 4,392 active cases, and the numbers are still growing since we still have cases of missing soldiers who will be our beneficiaries, and disabled soldiers and their cases coming in. So we had the need to grow and to turn into a professional team, whereas before we were surviving on a team of very dedicated volunteers. So we have an independent board. The board members are appointed for a 5-year term. New members will be appointed by the incumbent board, and there is no intervention from state authorities in the selection or decision-making procedures. The selection criteria, which are based on their professional and personal reputation and experience, are stipulated by law. These are people who come from all kinds of backgrounds: finance, banking, crisis management, fundraising, asset management, and so on and so forth. Today's board is mainly comprised of diaspora Armenians. So we have representatives from the United States, from Europe, and from Russia. They have large networks which allow us to use their networks and their reputation to raise awareness about the foundation in Armenia and abroad. We also have a team, we also have a professional team now. It's a tightly knit team of experienced professionals, mostly come from banking, finance, marketing backgrounds with over 10 years of experience. Most of us are educated abroad in the US, in UK, or in the EU, fluent in more than 2 or 3 languages, a young and enthusiastic team ready to help the foundation achieve its goals. Couple of numbers which will showcase the situation before and after the war. As I said, as of now, we have 4,392 cases. Unfortunately, 3,976 of those cases are a result of the September 27 war. We also have a bridge financing program in place, which was introduced and financed by the government, not our means. We were just the foundation they chose to carry out, since we have the expertise and the infrastructure to do so. And the purpose of the bridge financing program was to support families of missing soldiers and soldiers still in hospitals who will require some time to acquire a disability because they needed interim support before becoming a main beneficiary of the program. As of now, we have paid compensation over $96 million, which is a huge amount considering the resources that our country has as an economy. It's important to understand that for us, every 10 cases that we take on equals to $1.5 million in lifetime compensation. So our liabilities grew tenfold as a result of the recent war. We have very many interesting cases, and cases that will touch your heart and will lift your spirit, as Razmig said. People who were true patriots, who have taken part not in the recent war only, but in the April war or in the 90s war. Zaven Marutan is one of those cases. He's a participant of 3 wars. He was very young during the first one, so he ran away from home because he wouldn't be drafted at 17. And when talking to him, he did not have a single ounce of regret for losing a leg. He said, "I don't care about my leg. It's the loss of our land that I am very pained about." And his story is not unique. We have hundreds of cases of men and women who have knowingly sacrificed their lives and their health so that we can live safely in our homeland. It's important to understand how our funds are generated. We have 3 main sources of funding. The big part of our funding comes from mandatory employee contributions that were introduced in Armenia in 2017. As I said, it was $2 a month now to begin with, but after the war, the bar was raised to a scale of from $3 to $30, depending on how much you earn, and it is from a single employer. So if you are employed by several employers, then you would pay the compensation from every employer, and the cumulative amount is much larger. Donations are a vital and important source of financing for us. Since establishment, we've raised around $22 million from all over the world, and donation can flow in through bank transfers, online donations, and it's important. We also do asset management. Before the war, we had considerable assets accumulated, so we've managed to have around $1.5 million from asset management alone. The situation has unfortunately changed. Our reserves are very thin now, which is not something we would like to have, because the model is an endowment fund where we should invest the money we have and try to compensate from interest earned on the amounts, and always be ready for the next war in case that happens. And it was, I don't know, intuition or sheer luck that the foundation was created in 2017, and we had 3 years to accumulate funds and to grow infrastructure before this war struck. Otherwise, we would not be sufficiently funded to be able to pay out the compensations that we do now. The predicted financial gap that we need to fill out for the coming 4 or 5 months is $10 to $15 million, considering that we still expect several hundred cases to flow in and become beneficiaries of the foundation for 20 years. It's an interesting statistics that I want you to see. It's around 20 million was raised during the war and right after the war. The geography is very interesting. Most of those donations, again, come from Armenia. The second largest donor community that we have is the Russian Federation, considering that there are over 2 million Armenians officially or non-officially residing in Russia. This includes also seasonal workers who are mainly residing in Armenia but work in Russia and would send bank transfers and online donations while working there. The third largest donor that we have is the Armenian community in the United States, with 8.2% of our worldwide donations coming from the US only in 2020. This is a general information on how you can support the foundation, and naturally one of the most important ways you can support IFS is through sustainable monthly donations that you can, for the United States, you can channel through Armenian Wounded Heroes, which will give you the benefit of tax-deductible donations. We also have a partner established on the West Coast, Friends of Armenian Soldiers and Family, which is also a 501c3. Bank transfer and online donations are one of the easiest ways you can donate to the foundation. It's important to know that all our funds are always visible on our website in real time. So if you go on our website, you can always see the number of cases compensated, the number of cases in bridge financing, how much we have raised from employee contributions, from donations, how much compensation we have paid out. I would like to talk about our principles because I think they are important. This is what motivates us, and these are the principles we guard while we do our work. Transparency is very important to us and has been since day one. So if you go on our website, you can see every single case of compensation with a name and the last name, the date of the accident that happened, also the amount of compensation.
Did you lose?
Sona, your internet is frozen, I think.
I think we lost her, yeah.
Okay.
Why don't we ask Razmig to?
Okay.
Well, while maybe she's dialing back in, I'll say a few words about the 1,000 Plus Fund. So we at Armenian Wounded started partnering with them right after the war, mid-November of last year. And there was an environment of severe distrust of anything related to the government and the Ministry of Defense. And while we were talking to them to establish this partnership, we were also advised, gee, make sure you don't walk into a situation where you're working with somebody who's under the influence of government, et cetera, et cetera. So we did a lot of due diligence to understand how the foundation is set up, who is running the foundation. At the time, the Minister of Defense was on the board. We were skeptical about that. And at the end of our diligence, we became very comfortable that these individuals and leaders are very dedicated, very professional, highly accountable, and transparent. And we've become, at the time, their only partner in the US, and now I'm glad there's others, so that we could provide tax-deductible US distributions to them. So on our web page, ArmenianWoundedHeroes.com, you'll see a page dedicated to 1,000 Plus, and any contributions through that link are tax-deductible and go completely to in monthly transfers to the foundation. Is she back on?
No, I don't see her yet.
Okay.
Okay.
If you'd like to transition, I can do it, or if you want to give her a ring, so if she can. She may have just lost internet.
Yeah. Okay, let me.
I think her line is busy also, and so there's something wrong with the internet apparently. So I think it's better that Razmig, you start share the screen and start your presentation.
Okay, thank you, and then we can hopefully she's back at some point. Oh,
Yeah.
she's
There
back
she
now.
is. Okay.
Cheers.
Now she's trying to connect.
Okay, shall we?
I am back.
All right, Sona,
Excellent.
good.
Internet.
Okay.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Dilijan is not famous for good internet. I'm sorry.
Okay, so you can just continue. Yeah.
I was talking about accountability, that we are audited by a top 10 worldwide top 10 audit firm annually, all our financial statements. And also an important principle for us is justice for all. We have created a model where all beneficiaries will be supported by the foundation. So they will not be a soldier or a family that has lost a loved one or has acquired a first or second degree disability and will be left out. That is not possible. So justice is very important, making sure the system treats everyone equally and with the same respect that they deserve, because their sacrifice has been equal when it comes to homeland. These are the main things that I wanted to present. I am open to your questions and to your suggestions on how we can do this better. Also, I'd like to say, most of you probably are hearing about us for this first time, and it has several reasons. First of all, before the war, the Insurance Foundation for Servicemen required no awareness raising or public fundraising, because the mandatory contributions we were getting were more than enough to finance the cases we had in relatively peaceful times. Unfortunately, the war changed that, and we have started a public outreach program and public fundraising programs in Armenia and worldwide. And thank you to ARPA Institute for allowing me to talk on their very important platform and this opportunity to present what we do. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Sona, for that very encouraging and informative information about the great work that you and your organization that you do, and that your involvement as young professionals with so much enthusiasm and dedication. It is really uplifting. I have a few questions, Sona, if you would like to answer them. I know you mentioned tangentially about the involvement, or if there's no direct involvement of the government with the 1,000 plus. And you also mentioned about mandating the employees' contributions. Who mandates or who follows up on that mandate, and which employees? Would you like to elaborate on that, please?
Sure, absolutely. Okay. Regarding the government, I know this is a very important question that interests people not only in the diaspora but also in Armenia. We are an independent private foundation that was created by law. So we are I guess a classic case of a private partnership, because we are financed by the Armenian public, not the government, but the regular people that work and pay taxes in Armenia. Also donors, but that's voluntary. So when we talk about the mandatory contribution, we talk about the general public at large. So we were created by a special law, which gives us the security that the way we are structured, our model, our amount of compensation, our governance cannot be changed easily, which is very important when we talk about 20 years. At the same time, we do not are not financed or supervised by a government, neither ours nor any other government in the world, because we are financed by the public, we are accountable to the public, and the only public infrastructure that we use is the tax system, where people pay in their taxes and we get the contributions from the general tax system of Armenia. And also the information we receive about beneficiaries, especially the part about where the accident happened and how, is information that only the Ministry of Defense has in Armenia, because it's a state secret. That information is not even passed on to us. Simply the Special Investigative Commission will do an investigation and give us a file that states that yes, this person was wounded as during a military operation or while defending the frontiers of our homeland. So these are the two the largest interactions we have with public infrastructure, but no direct link to the government or supervision by the government.
Thank you. You mentioned that the board of directors, or on your board you have board members who are from the states or from the diaspora. What are your plans for inclusion of the diaspora in your endeavors?
Thank you. A very good question, because we're working hard on it now. We do have a very diverse board, and the purpose of a diverse board is to have all or most and the largest Armenian communities abroad represented. So we have two representatives from the US. We have Irina, who was based in UK and Malta for a very long time, Anahit, who's from Russia, and David, who's originally from Armenia but lived in the United States and has worked in Libya, Afghanistan, and all the hotspots in the last 30 years. So the important thing about our relationship with the diaspora is that first of all, we're very thankful, because these are people who have been supporting us we have donors from United States who have been supporting us from day one, and have been donors when no one believed in the project, no one saw the necessity of the project, because we thought we were in complete peace, So very often we were asked, why are you even created? How many cases do we have? Why do you need so much money? Let's spend your money on mortgages. Why do you need to accumulate? So the important connection is that we have people who know what we do and believe in us, and second, that the war heightened emotions, and a lot more people joined in, but it didn't allow us to say thank you properly, because we didn't know who these people were. We had no data, no analytics, no team, and no time, because we were busy compensating 4,000 cases. So we have finally launched a diaspora outreach program, and the purpose of the outreach program is to meet those communities, to say our thank yous, to give our report, and to honestly ask for continued support. So we are planning a trip to the United States where the head of my team, Narine, who's actually on the call, and myself, and maybe also our deputy CEO, will travel the largest Armenian communities in the United States: LA, Fresno, San Francisco, Detroit, Chicago, Boston, New York, New Jersey, Philadelphia, and Washington, D.C., and try to meet the communities that support us and know them in person and give the stories of our beneficiaries and see what are the questions that the diasporans are interested in, or how we can improve our communication or relations with the diaspora. So yes, thank you for the question.
Thank you. Okay, let me see if there's any questions. No questions. Okay, then, Sona, Vernav, thank you very much for that presentation. And we'll move forward, and let's hear from our next presenter, Razmig. The floor is yours.
Okay, thank you, Hasmik and Hagop and Arka team. And Sona, by the way, when your internet was down, I talked about our partnership and how what a professional and transparent team that you guys have, and encourage everybody to support. And obviously, we're happy to be a bridge to provide that financial, the tax deductibility. So we'll spend a few minutes on Armenian Wounded Heroes Fund. There's a lot of things that overlap with IFS, but we have a broader mission that we'll talk about. And we were also established after the 4-day war in 2016. We're a 501c3, and my co-founder is Chris Petrosyan out in LA. And together we've worked together over 20 years, we've known each other, and both have defense and aerospace backgrounds. And so we wanted to create something where we bring our expertise to solve problems for the forces, defense forces. And because those problems were apparent after that war in 2016, and we'll talk about ways that, through charity and through humanitarian projects, we can really make a difference for the defense forces on the ground. Our focus is on prevention and improving lives for the defense forces, because that is the most effective and frankly cheapest way to reduce the burden on IFS when that soldier does get injured or, God forbid, passes. Then that's not recoverable. But what is doable is very cheap, effective institutional programs to prevent those deaths, and we'll talk about that. We set this up a little bit differently, and because we looked around and said, well, why, we want to do things, but why aren't we doing it through some of the larger organizations? Not that there's anything wrong with any of them, but we wanted something very focused, right, and airtight. So we created this to be focused only on the soldiers. If you want to help the defense forces, if you want to help the injured, we can do that. If you want to build kindergartens and churches, which are great, we can't help you. Right, so we're very focused on one thing, and every dollar goes to the soldiers because all the admin costs are paid by us personally. So when we travel to monitor the front lines or whatnot, not only do we pay those costs ourselves, we invest or contribute large amounts of our own money to this, so that you can trust that this is all going to the soldiers. We'll talk about some of our accomplishments, but our key programs have been in 3 areas. One is deploying first aid kits to the front lines. And many of you may know that before this war in Artsakh, we had actually deployed, fully equipped the defense forces of Artsakh with US-made, US military first aid kits of different levels. We're only showing the individual level here. So every single soldier on the front line had one of these and was trained to use it. Before the war, we had reports of 25 lives that were saved because these first kits were present. As you may recall, there was still low-level conflict going on, and we had deaths, unfortunately, and injuries along the way. And obviously, during the war, we did save hundreds of lives because of this, but it wasn't enough, obviously, to stop the invasion. So you know, I wish we'd done more, and we're trying to do more now so that our forces are even stronger, you know, because the Turks are not going away. The second area of focus is improving the lives of the wounded heroes once they're out of hospital, or once they get that initial medical care. There's many amputees. They need a lot of rehabilitation, physical and mental. And we have a major program and a large rehab facility where not only are we providing the physical rehabilitation, but also mental by giving many of these guys a purpose and something to fight for. Many of them go and participate in Paralympics competitions. They come back with medals. In fact, we brought 20 gold medals last year before the war and from various competitions. And that gives tremendous energy and confidence to reintegrate. And we're also creating a jobs program for these guys. And we'll talk about that in more detail. And a very successful new initiative is what we call defense support units. We started this in Artsakh, where we had implored the army to provide better living conditions to the defense forces, clean kitchens, warm showers, basic necessities, and that was getting steam. Unfortunately, now with our borders being on the top of mountains and uninhabitable, and many more, much longer borders than we wanted, unfortunately, we're putting these as shelters for the forces so that they can at least be protected from the elements. And they get them out of the tents and the open. And what's very successful about this is that each defense support unit is sponsored by a family or an organization or a person in memory of somebody else, and we put their name on it. And that takes you straight to the front lines where you have ownership of a piece of Armenia's front lines and you're protecting it yourself. So we'll talk about that as well. Let's see. Some of the major initiatives going forward. We are rebuilding our first aid capability in Syunik. We have thousands of kits on the way as we speak. We have established a facility to manufacture protective gear in Armenia. In fact, many of our wounded heroes will have employment in these kinds of projects. And we're going to continue to build defense support units. We've provided 25 so far this year. We're going to put in another at least 25 through the end of this year ahead of the winter. And each one of those costs about $8,000 to sponsor. The second area is medical rehabilitation and support. So we've supported the burn center with the white phosphorus attacks. We had many kids who needed help for months after the war. We funded $500,000 of prosthetics. Actually, let me get to the next page. It's easier it's got more detail here. We gave 36 amputees, about 41 prosthetics. Obviously, many of them are multiple amputees. We partner with Eternal Nation on that one. And then on our rehabilitation center, we are fully operational on a facility now, but we are constructing a larger permanent center thanks to the generous donations from the Tufayan family in New Jersey. And that's where we're going to expand and focus on the long-term and mental rehabilitation of our guys as well. Getting closer to what ARPA does, part of our effort is to support the scientific development and innovation of various companies and institutions. I'm happy to announce that we have created a world-class flight autonomy center in partnership with the Polytechnic University. This is headed by Professor Naira Hovagimian, who's been on your panel before, and we've collected a team of other experts and are taking her school of autonomy to Armenia, and I've created this this effort in conjunction with her lab so that we have world-class capabilities for UAV and drone development and autonomy development in general. And this will support the many organizations, private organizations, who are involved in flight testing and autonomy and development, which will be a strategic avenue for Armenia's development. And I will not say much more about that here. And then along the lines of what we talked about with IFS, we're continuing to provide those monthly wires to the foundation, but we also, in the beginning of the year or after the war, up until January, February, we provided $500,000 of direct financial assistance to families because the paperwork was taking a while to get from the Ministry of Defense to IFS. And these families were facing winter with little kids and all that kind of stuff. So we sent payments to 1,000 families. So appreciate everybody's donations, but going forward, that type of activity is better suited to be done with IFS. And so we've stepped back from that. Okay, so this is a picture of our current rehab facility. It's headed by Sarki Stepanyan on the right in the picture. He himself lost 3 limbs in Artsakh in 2014. And instead of giving up, with his remaining left arm, he's gone on to become the world champion in arm wrestling and has served as an inspirational hero, not only to the current soldiers, but also all of us, frankly. And we learn a lot from him with every interaction. So I don't know, Hasmik, if you can put them on mute. If
I don't think I can. Zora, can you, Zarmine, can you put yourself on mute? Zarmine, can you put yourself on mute? Zora is the host of the meeting, unfortunately.
Okay. No worries, we'll keep going. Just more pictures of the guys. These come in every day. They train with us. They get stronger, and they are fighting to get back into integrated back into society. And one way to do that is to provide the job placement program that we're doing through that innovation center that I talked about. Some more here. We're going to start with the autonomy center, which is up and running, but also get into other areas where we can support the tech enterprises and through that create employment for our guys at the same time. And then one of the most popular ways, as I mentioned, is for people to sponsor these defense support units and adopt a piece of the front lines and adopt a unit. When you do this, you get a plaque on the unit itself with your name or your organization. So you can see the variety of organizations that have come out and supported. I mean, we couldn't put all 25 of them on here. So consider this as a way to get on the front lines. And ultimately, you know, everything we're doing is to bring the guys back home safely, not just react to an event, but really get out ahead of these events and improve the capabilities of our forces to either care for the wounded, evacuate the wounded, shelter them, so on and so forth, none of which involves any military sort of activity, but to maintain a defense force takes 90% humanitarian type activities. And so many of you Armenians have a tendency of shying away from defense forces. I think those days are hopefully over, and we need to all do something so that these guys come back and they become the husbands and the fathers and the brothers that we need. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Razmig, for that very informative, encouraging presentation. It certainly gets us out of the doom and gloom mode, and that we are able to enter into a more hopeful and relief and seeing, hearing, and and witnessing such great work that is being done that we heard today in both presentations. I have a few questions for you as well. What we know, we all know that a climate of mistrust is prevalent among the Armenian people. What are your plans or in to rebuild trust in the people? Because rebuilding trust is crucial for the participation and maximizing their participation, maximizing the donors' participation in this.
Yeah, that's a very fundamental question. We saw after the war, I mean, we as a nation went into depression, right? I mean, and everybody just withdrew. I've heard people say, I don't even consider myself Armenian anymore. I mean, like that, those kinds of extremes.
Yeah.
And most people are somewhere in the middle where they just had tremendous distrust and tremendous disappointment, disillusionment. First of all, there's one thing that we need to keep in mind. It is not the fault of the 18-year-old soldier who is right now standing in Artsakh, right now standing on our borders with his weapon, protecting the lands. It's not his fault, whatever happened, right? And it doesn't mean that we can withdraw support, which is what's happened. I mean, our donations and everybody else has just dropped off the cliff. But we also understand that we need to be trustworthy and transparent and avoid the bad actors and be independent and deliver results. So our approach from day one has been results speak for themselves, right? So we show the world pictures of soldiers with their first aid kits. We show videos of training exercises. We show these DSUs getting shipped to the front lines. We don't tell you where they go, but you know they're getting there. And we ourselves go and monitor all these efforts to make sure they're there. And we stay completely independent. Chris and I are on the board. We make decisions. We have an advisory board. There's many active other leaders, but decision-making is completely independent and based on expertise. I mean, we are the ones advising the forces what to do. When they come to us with petty projects, we're happy to decline them, and we tell them, come back with something that improves overall institutional capability. So we're more than happy to tell the Minister of Defense, we don't trust you, you need to do this way and that way, because we're speaking from a position of expertise and unity. And we've benefited from a lot of the trust that people have placed in us. Last year, we raised about $8 million for a organization that's only been around a few years with a couple of guys that most of you had never heard of. But that work is what delivers the confidence and the fact that we are 100% airtight financial model, right? No, there's no admin cost, there's no overhead, no money goes anywhere other than to the soldier. And so you may argue with me, do we need first aid or do we need DSUs? But it's not going anywhere else.
Thank you. And how do you develop your standards of operation?
So our standards are based on our professional expertise, right? Both of us and the full team is Diaspora and have had long-standing experience, but we have minimal operations also. So we don't, for example, that's why we do these prefabricated DSUs and we take them to the front lines. What we avoid is a construction project. That's where you need more people and more logistics and all that kind of stuff. So we are very light, in terms of human resources required, but we're very big on impact. So we'll work with the Defense Forces system, but monitor it. So leverage their infrastructure and capabilities as needed, as long as it's completely accessible to us to monitor. So otherwise, it'd be very hard to deliver this.
And how do you measure your success in?
It's simple. It's lives saved. And we were tracking it up until the war. That's where I gave you the number. Unfortunately, it's harder to do during the war, but going forward, it's all about saving their lives. And it's not their fault. Don't hold back. We need to recommit. We need to get back involved, and we need to deliver for these young guys who are out there now. It's not like the war's over or the Turks have gone away.
Thank you. I know you already mentioned your ties or cooperation with 1,000 plus. Do you cooperate? Are there any other major organizations that you cooperate with?
Yeah, that's a good question. We cooperate with everybody. In fact, we are set up so that we can become the Switzerland. We're non-political, we're user-friendly, and our job is to create standards so that the defense forces get one sort of solution. You can't, this is not a Mickey Mouse show, right? You can't just send stuff like in the war, everybody was sending blankets and socks. I mean, you can't, that's not how you operate a force. So you need standards, you need consistency, but we involve other, various organizations. So for example, when we so every single soldier gets the same first aid kit. They have to put it on the same side of their pocket and have the same equipment in it, because in war and in the fog and the smoke and the blood and all that kind of stuff, you're not going to spend time trying to find out what the soldier has. Did you get the CVS kit that the guys from Denmark sent you, or this better one from? No, that doesn't work. So we've created these standards for every class, but we've involved organizations. For example, AMAA, the Missionary Association, supported us on the first aid project, and there's thousands of kits out on the front lines with the AMAA logo. So that soldier knows, hey, AMAA has got your back. And then we've done that with AYF and various other organizations. So we've worked with all of them. We want to work with all even more. And we want to highlight your names on these programs. So, one organization can help us outfit Olaf Tavush, the other one can do Sunik, and so on and so forth. But at the end, the defense forces get the same correct quality product that they need. So that's how we see our role.
How do you compare the mission of your organization vis-a-vis ARPA's vision? I think you very briefly in passing, you mentioned that. Can you?
Yeah, and I'm happy to discuss more. And we work closely with Hagop and through this innovation center, we've put capital behind projects to advance science and in strategic areas for the country. And the reason it makes sense for us to do that, because it then also pulls and brings in the wounded heroes into those programs and creates opportunities for them. But it's not just self-serving, it's really to advance science. And the Autonomy Center is one example, right? For Armenia to survive, it needs a strong defense force, and it needs to wake up and advance its sciences and develop the technologies that will protect it. So we're all about strengthening those defenses, and so there's many areas of cooperation through the Innovation Center with ARPA and your partners, and so we look forward to more dialogue there.
Thank you. What are your most pressing priorities today?
Winter is not that far away. It's a couple of months in some of these locations, Gegarkunik, Verin Shorja, Sevlich, where we all care about. Winter is weeks away, and our number one priority is to get those defense units to the front lines. We have a company that makes these in Yerevan, so we can make them quickly. We can make it in very high quality, higher quality than anything else on the market, and with very attractive prices. So we need to do more of these units. The government is finally now funding some of this themselves, and getting out there. And we were the catalyst. We showed that example, right, of having deployed 25 earlier this year. And so they're going to do some, but we need to all get together and do as much as we can so that these kids don't, only face a harsh enemy, but hopefully protect them from the harsh elements as well.
Thank you. I have a question on the chat room, although it's you partially answered that. It says, Razmig, what are the current needs that need to get filled? How much money is required to handle the current needs? I think you partially answered, but any additional?
I'll tell you based on our priorities. So first aid is going to be $1 million requirement. These DSUs, we've gotten funding for $200,000, so 25. But if you think about, we need 200, not 25. That's another 2 million almost. The protective gear that we're making in Armenia, that's a $7 or $8 million project. So we're not going to do all this with just diaspora involvement. But the point is to do enough to show the path so that the government does some with the forces, other organizations do some, and we all do it together. This is not the job of just one organization or a couple of guys.
Thank you. I think I've asked all my questions. How do you, are there any questions from the audience? I will open the floor for those from the participants if they have any questions.
You know what, Razmig, if you don't mind, there was just a question that came through from Hovannes, and there was also a comment earlier about, well, we know this is the government's job, and we're having to do it ourselves, and why are we having to do this, right? First of all, let me agree. Yes, the government needs to do more. They need to do better, and all that stuff. No question. I'd love to go back to doing my business and not have to worry about doing this. But the reality is, let's have a different attitude. I mean, even in the United States, which has the most well-funded military and all the infrastructure, there are many, many groups like Wounded Heroes Fund, right? That's how we got the idea. There's the, you know the names. Even in the United States, people support their forces. People help in education, in job placements, in prosthetics, in rehab. Society does that. So stop, please stop saying, why doesn't the government do that? We all have to do it. They have to do a better job, and we have to do a better job. So I'm sorry to lecture, but let's move on from that mentality.
Well, absolutely, Razmig, I agree. I was in my readings, I read a lot about well-established and the countries that you mentioned, that they need that additional support.
Yeah, of course.
And it's not only the burden on the government, in addition to that.
Yes. Sorry, Hovannes, to pick on you.
Are there any other questions?
Can I make a comment?
Sure.
On the last question, I totally agree with Razmig. And as someone who lives in Armenia, I would like to say that when a soldier stands on the front line, he does not protect the government. He protects me, my 3 children, my parents, and everyone who lives there. And I believe as a nation, it is our duty to support these people and their families, because when they stand on the front line, when they give the ultimate sacrifice, when they make the ultimate sacrifice, it is for everyone's safety. I believe even people who live in the diaspora, they benefit from a safe homeland, somewhere you can come to, somewhere you can send your children to summer camp. I don't know. I think it's why I believe IFS is very different is that it's maybe one of those rare cases where we as a nation have come together and we've created a success story. Unfortunately, it's built on war, but this is where we live. This is our reality, has been for the last several hundred years. But for the first time as a nation, we have come together. We have created something that is sustainable, that is professional, and that does help. These people, they require the financial assistance that we give. If you look into statistics, these are not, mostly these are not men from rich families or very well off. These are young boys from the regions who have no other alternative than to become military, because it's not a very prestigious job, unfortunately. It's not paid very well. So it is our duty to take care of them, because if their families leave after their sons or daughters don't come back, we're going to have empty borders and empty villages on the borderline. And that is the greatest threat to our security. So I absolutely agree with Razmig. This is where we need a shift in mindset. Yes, the government has a lot to do, and they're doing not very well, but we need to think about what we do as Armenians, especially those of us who live here, because we benefit greatly from safer borders. Thank you.
Thank you very much for those wonderful and encouraging information. And I'm sure the participants will agree with me at the beginning when I said, I'm sure at the end of this session, we will all at least have that hopefulness and a high spirits, knowing that even though we have experienced that great tragedy, as a result of the war were tragic, but at least we have people and youth and young people and young professionals who are exhibit so much devotion and are enthusiastically doing their best, doing their utmost to aid and support directly to the soldiers and the Armenia in general. Well, thank you very much, everybody, for your attention, for your participation in this very important topic, in this panel discussion. And we look forward to your participation in our future ARPA panels. If there are no additional, Hagop, do you have any additional comments to close?
Yes, thank you, Razmig. Thank you very much. And thank you, Razmig and Sona, for this excellent presentation and discussion and uplifting atmosphere you created. So I think it's everybody's duty to think about our soldiers and to help as much as possible. Now, we send our invitations or the event announcements through our emails. So if we don't have your email, please put it on the chat room and we'll send you the next invitation. Or if you know anybody who would be interested, please send us their email addresses and we will send the next invitation to them. And also, we work, obviously, all of us are volunteers, no pay, just like Razmig and the others. And so we need to do a lot in Armenia. As you know, especially after the war, there is a lot to do, and we need financial assistance. Please help both the wounded soldiers and ARPA to do more and more, because there is a tremendous need. Our next event will be on how can Armenia become a high technology hub, and that will be held on October 11. You will be all invited again. Thank you very much for your participation, and good night and good day for all of you.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Hagop and
Thank
Razmig.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Take care.